and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. This is one of my day shoots. Occasionally I shoot during the day. My in-laws have my kid. My husband's off exercising. So we're going to talk about this film. So this is the Harvey Girls, despite the fact that it says Judy Garland on the very top. Guess who stars in this film? And this is the first film besides The Wizard of Oz that I've seen Judy Garland in. The other actress in this film that is on the bottom here is Angela Lansbury. This is interesting. So, this film is a fictional film about Judy Garland coming from Ohio as a mail order bride to this western town in New Mexico along the Santa Fe Railroad. And she meets up with these young women from all over the country who are training to become Harvey Girls, which was part of a chain of restaurants built along the Santa Fe Railroad, whose purpose was to civilize the West. So they were upscale restaurants, provided low-cost fare, but hospitality, and the Harvey Girls themselves were not allowed to wear makeup, though they do obviously in this film because this came out in '46 and the Harvey Girls were a bit further back and past than that. But they were wholesome as opposed to, and you specifically in this film see the contrast of across the street where you have one of the saloons with the showgirls, the saloon girls. And that's kind of what you have going on throughout this film. Judy Garland comes, realizes the guy she was meant to marry doesn't really actually want to marry her, is kind of frightened, and joins the Harvey Girls. And one of the, I don't know whether he's the mayor of the town or what, or the sheriff of the town, he does not like the fact that there is a Harvey House restaurant being built in town because he doesn't want the town to become civilized for some reason. I don't think it's ever made clear. Now, the owner of the restaurant, of the saloon, doesn't care, and he's telling the guy to back off. It's like, no, leave them alone. They're not competition to us. If the men want to go over there, let them go over there. Don't care. Angela Lansbury plays the head saloon girl, M, which is interesting. Now, she is dubbed in this film. She could sing. Angela Lansbury can, in fact, sing. Check out one of my favorite Disney films, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and you can actually see and hear Angela Lansbury sing. They said, basically in this film, her voice wasn't quite suited for the gruffness of a saloon girl, and a head saloon girl at that. So she was, in fact, dubbed in this film, which, again, this came out in 1946. Calico, be quiet. The cat is meowing. It was very, very common at the time. It didn't start getting controversial until a little bit later. If you want to check out My Fair Lady, we talk about that and how they were not happy to have another famous actress, so one with more class than Judy Garland, unfortunately, and less drug addiction than Judy Garland, and whose name I cannot come to my mind at this moment. But you can check out My Fair Lady in that, and the fact that this specific actress was dubbed irritated people. So Audrey Hepburn, there it is. There's the name. The name came to me. So, but it's kind of an interesting film. It's definitely, again, this came out in 1946. There's a lot of singing. There's a lot of dancing. This is a very traditional MGM musical of the time. So it's very interesting for me, who grew up watching Murder, She Wrote and loves Bedknobs and Broomsticks, to see Angela Lansbury in the kind of bitchy role, to say the least. Of course, she gets Judy Garland off the train in time. It's also kind of funny because Judy Garland, at this point in time in her career, was frequently late or just didn't show up at all. She was very much on drugs. Was this her fault? No. Look up a whole bunch of stuff that went on during The Wizard of Oz. Judy Garland and a lot of the people, Kendra, I had to get a cat butt in my face, they were not well treated by the studio system here. And I have a cat. I can draw. But Judy Garland was very much, she was on drugs a lot. It was not her fault. She was definitely an alcoholic. By this time, she was also a diva, probably to an extent, because so she was frequently late, making other people wait. This had been common in some of her films before this, so they knew what they were getting into, but she was a major star at the time. So, but her character, if we can go back to what the film is actually about. So she comes to this town, she ends up becoming a Harvey Girl. She has a love affair with the owner of the saloon, why the other guy tries to shut it down very much. He shoots out the window, scaring off some of the other Harvey Girls when they're sleeping one night. He tries to set fire to the place, causing a brawl. He brings in the saloon girls when they have a fancy dance. The setting fire happens later. After they set fire, the other guy who tries to basically the owner of the saloon, he's leaving the next morning. He's taking his establishment to Prescott. Though apparently they frequently, though I didn't catch this, mentioned Flagstaff as a mining town in this. Of course, Flagstaff was a logging town, not a mining town. Prescott was a mining town in Arizona. This supposedly takes place in New Mexico and was shot on a backlot in California, as they are. So, but they took their ideas from what would be considered the Old West, where you see the cactus and the saguaro cactus, and the agave plants, which is a spiny succulent. Yes, that's where you get tequila from. So it doesn't fit. But Judy Garland falls in love with him. The next day, after the place is burnt down, he gives the Harvey house, his saloon, to the Harvey house because their place is burned down. So they pretty much changed it out. The saloon girls are leaving. They're going to Prescott or Flagstaff, and moving on. And then he decides not to get on the train, the owner of the train. And then he realizes Judy Garland's on the Judy Garland's character, whose name is like Susan something, on the train. And Angela Lansbury's character, whose name is Emma, realizes that she's in love, that Susan really loves this guy, and gets her off the train. And they kiss happily ever after, get married. That's how the movie ends. It's very, very interesting. Again, this came out in 1946. It did very well. It is very, very typical of musicals of the 40s. If you're interested in that type of film and looking at this, specifically film history, this is a good film to show. I love the costumes. You love the dancing. The singing is top notch. Because, again, this is MGM at its height. So, and this is musicals. Judy Garland sings beautifully. It's still kind of strange to see her partnered with I almost see Judy Garland as a bad girl just because of her real life persona, as opposed to Angela Lansbury, who this is being filmed in March of 2023. Angela Lansbury only died a couple of months back, who's one of my favorite actresses. And it's interesting to see her in that different, much younger. It took a second for me to recognize her when they first started showing her, in this almost opposite of what you expect the wholesome woman from both either Bread Knobs and Broomsticks, or more frequently, Murder, She Wrote. Which is really what she ended up being known for. So it's kind of interesting to see that contrast. But as homeschoolers, if you are looking for something to look at examining film history, this is really good. If you're looking at both certain people's careers, Angela Lansbury, Judy Garland, this is the middle of her career, because Wizard of Oz came out in 1939. This was before the Wizard of Oz became really, really famous when it was showing on television. This was during her height of her adult career. This is not before this is kind of before she was basically pushed into being very, very well known, at least for the Wizard of Oz. And yes, I covered the Wizard of Oz early on when I started this channel, and I was looking at the books as well. So it's a little bit of longer video, and probably not as in-depth as I would do it now. And that's a meowing cat, which I will deal with later. By the time you see this, she will be 14. She'll be 14, again, this is May or March. She'll be 14 in a couple months, the end of May of 2023. She's old and cranky. But again, this is, for me, this was really interesting to see Angela Lansbury with the long hair, dressed up, and very much acting snooty. She is the female enemy in this film. And she plays opposite Judy Garland, who's the debutante and the, well, not really the debutante. She's the girl next door, is the best way I can describe it in this film. And then you see a bunch of singing and dancing, and you can really look at how looking at the films of the 40s. So that's really what this film is. Age range, probably middle school and up. I don't know if younger kids are going to be, depends on your opinion of violence. Again, there's a gunshot and a bunch of men fight while trying to set a building on fire. Kendra. I'll deal with the cat. She's wanting out. But again, how interested they'll be really depends. Probably personal opinion to sit through it and actually be interested, unless they're really interested in show tunes and really interested in Judy Garland and singing and dancing kind of thing in the 1940s era. Middle school, maybe late elementary, but middle school and up would be my opinion. But again, there's nothing, again, this came out in 1940s, came out in 1946. So again, it's Technicolor. This is not done in black and white. There's no, besides, there's a little bit of smoking. But again, it's not going to be blood. It's not going to be gore. It's not going to be anything explicit, because it's the 1940s. This is the war literally just ended. I think they'd had enough of blood and gore at this point. So that's the end of this review. If you like what you see, be sure to check out the channel. I did actually cover a bunch of musicals this year. My Fair Lady being one of them. I've covered Bedknobs and Broomsticks in the past. I've covered The Sound of Music this year. Mary Poppins. Funny Girl. Annie. Three versions of Annie. That's a whole video contemplation there. And The King, did I mention The King and I? Annie. Yeah, so I've covered a couple this year. So I've also covered, if you're looking for more, brain can't work. Julie Andrews. I've covered The Princess Diaries this year, the entire book series, and both of the films. No, they don't have much to do with each other. You can check those out. I cover a bunch of stuff. If you've never been on mentioned my channel before, I'm covering the Boxcar Children next year. I'm covering the Anne of Green Gables series in completion next year, from the TV show to the 4 movies made by Sullivan to all the books and the short stories. I mean, that's coming in 2024. I cover African American History Month, Korean American History Month, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm messing around with 2024 right now in my head. Besides, if you want to know series, which is set up for next year, I'm starting with the 3 books in the Polar Bear series from Catherine Lasky. As I said, I've covered Gardens of Ga'Hoole this year, and I'll be covering the Wolves of Bihan this year as well. I'll finish off with the Polar Bears coming into 2023. Then I'm going to cover 3 graphic novels in the Animorph series, because I can't find the physical books in my library. Then I'm covering Anne of Green Gables, and we're going on to the Boxcar Children. Then I'm covering, I think it's called Wings of Fire, is the book series. As for things, I am covering African American History Month in February. January, I'm covering a couple videos on sword making, glass making, and a few other kind of unusual crafty things. And then I'm going to cover Donwali whenever that actually takes place. That's an Indian holiday. I'm thinking about covering Titanic in April. So again, these are things that are going around in the head if you're interested. If you want to look at my past stuff, I covered vaccines this past year. I covered unicorns. I covered Caribbean American History Month. I always cover American History Month. I'm probably going to do a bunch of stuff on Angel Island coming in 2024. So that's kind of what you see. I also do periodically on Wednesdays. I'll do travel videos when I have them, depending on what's going on. And then I'll bring in more educational stuff as things go on. My daughter, by the time you guys see this, will be 4. So she's 3.5 right now. So we're not getting quite into the homeschooling stuff quite yet. But again, if you're new to this channel, my book reviews come out Monday. My film reviews come out Fridays. I have at least 2 videos a week, if not more. So thank you.